Hi Santhosh, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Srikant.
Santhosh, could you please open the PPT with list of questions on topic?
Yeah, Srikant, sure. Yeah, this is the PPT, Srikant.
Yes, Santhosh.
Yeah, I'm starting my explanation, Srikant.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we are going to discuss this presentation on the user variables. Let us see what we are going to do in this presentation. First, we will show how to use these user variables in these following artifacts like data forms, RTPs, means runtime prompts, business rules, and smart view. And moving to the next slide here, we will see the creation of user variables. Before creating the user variables, let's know about what is the use of user variables. These user variables are act like filters in the data forms, where the users can focus on the certain members, and they can use those certain members in the data forms. For filtering purpose, we use these user variables in our application. And coming to the next question, what is the difference between the user variable and substitution variable? The main difference is in user variable, the users can make changes, means the user can select the members that we mentioned in our user variable. But in substitution variable, the user cannot make any changes. So this is the major difference in the user variable and the substitution variable. Next, in which use case do we use these user variables or the substitution variables means in the context of entity selection, we use these user variables over these substitution variables because when the user want to select other members in the entities, then you will use the user variables. For that purpose, we use the user variables or these substitution variables. Next point is, can you show me how to create a user variables from the following use cases? He has given the use case, and in the note point he has mentioned that we don't have the list of users in the application. Yeah, I have no users in my application. That's why I am using this user variables in the admin user only. So first let us see what is the use case one. The use case one is, assume user one is the owner of any two entities and assign those two entities as values to the entity dimension. For this, we will go to the application and let's see the user variables. We will go to the navigator and click on variables. After that, we will click on this add symbol. Here, I am taking for only the entity dimension. That's why I am taking the entity dimension. And we will give the name, like I will give the entity var2. And I will select the members, two members as per the use case. Here I will go to the segments and I will take the members from entity 2. I will take entity 201 and entity 202 and click on OK. After the members have been selected, I will click on save. Then the record will be successfully saved. Here our entity var2 user variable have been created. Then we will go to the user preferences to set the user for accessing which the entity member he want. He can select from this user preference. First, before going to the data form, the user must select this user preference because some error will come in the data form. That's why we must first select this user preference. I have created the entity two where from here I will select the member which I have taken in the user variable. Here from entity 2 I am selecting this en0202 UK and I am using this as my user preference, using this entity 202 member as my user preference. Then I will click on save. Yeah, the user preferences has been saved. Now let's move to the PPT and see what other points are mentioned. Next, we will see how to use these user variables in the data forms. And the first question is, you just said that reuse any of the data forms and show me how to use the user variable as per use case 1 from slide 3. You just said that use any of the data form by using the use case 1. For that, I will go to the data forms in my application. In my application, I'm going to the forms. Here, I have already created this user variable form. I am using that form user var2. Here, I will click on edit, and from layout, I will select the user variable which I have created now. Here on this entity, I am clicking on edit. After that, I will just go to the user variables and select this user var2. And first we must remove this old member. And I am selecting this entity var2 and click on OK. Yeah, the entity var2 was selected. This is the entity member which is the hard-coded member, and this is the user variable member. And these are all the level 0 members that I have taken in the form, and this is of account dimension. Now clicking on save. The form has been saved. After that, I will finish this form. Uh, we will go to the data forms and see whether it has been created or not. I'm going to the data. Here you can see that entity 2 to UK has been uh, appeared in our form. So now let's go to the PPT and see what other question has been asked. He has asked that explain how user 1 can access the data form and which is created based on the above question. Means using the use case 1, which form we have created. He has asked that how the user can access the data form, and in detail how the entities are restricted to the two entities of ownership. He has asked that how we can restrict the two entities of ownership. For that, I will go to the application and show you how we will restrict that the two entities of ownership. I am going to the application, and here the entity to UK is the user variable that we have created in our application. It was restricted to select this member. The only EN0202 UK was only coming in this form. No other member can be selected. Because we have not mentioned any of the members in the user variables, that's why we can only select these two members which were included in the user variables. Further, if you want to change this entity to UK, then we have to go to the user preferences. Here user preferences. Just a second. Yeah, under this entity var2, whatever the members we have taken, we can change these. We can change these two members only. Now I am changing from entity 02 to UK to entity 0201 France. Now click on OK. Next, click on save. Yeah, the user preferences have been saved successfully. After that, again I will go to the data form. Data form. Yeah, here you can see that entity 201 France, it has been changed. Like this, we can restrict the users for these two entity ownership. Next, go into the presentation. And the third question is, should user one supposed to access any of these entities other than the two entities he owned in the data form? No, we can't supposed to access the other entities rather than these two entities that we have selected in our data form variable, entity user variable. Other than those members, we can't select any new member. Whatever we have selected in our user variable, we can only give that members only. And next we are going to this user requirement. The first point is, can you show me how to enable a dynamic user variable? Yeah, for this I am going to my application and I will show you how to enable the dynamic user variable. For that, first we will go to the forms, and I will select the form for user variables, user var2. Next, click on edit and click on layout, and go to the other options. Now under this dynamic user variables, we will select the user variable which we have created. and move it to the right side. Means we will select that user variable and we will check box this enable dynamic user variables. We will check on it. Next we will click on the save. Next we'll click on finish. And if you want to preview here, you can preview it. Through preview, you can see we have mentioned the dynamic user variable. So here we will get the drop down like entity where2, where you can shift from the entity 0 to 01 to 0 to 02. Like that, we can shift dynamically in the data form. For that, we will use these dynamic user variables. Now, after selecting this entity 202 UK, we will click on OK. Then the in the user variable column, the entity 202 UK has been selected. Like this, we will use these dynamic user variables. Next, he just mentioned that take any parent entity as an example and show how only the children of that parent entity are filtered in the data form. For this, I am going to the application and going to the variables again. Variables again. For the time being, I am taking another entity variable, that is entity var1, where I will select the parent entity. I will just select some parent entity like IN01, and I will add the function here. We have these option like adding functions in these user variables, so we can directly add the functions and restrict the members. Like if I need to see the only children, I am taking level 0 descendants, and I am removing this. First, I will remove all this. After that, I am taking this EN01 function as level 0 descendants. Yeah, the level 0 descendants has been selected for this entity 1. After that, we will click on OK. Yeah, the entity where was been updated. After that, we will click on save. The record has been successfully saved. So I will show you the in the data form how we can see only the childs only. For that, I am going to the data and taking other data form like I will take the other user variable form, this user variables, and I'm going to the layout, and in layout we can just select the members which we have created in the user variables. Like here the entity where was already selected. Once I will check what I have been taken in the user variables. Let me check once. For that, we must go to the navigator and we will select the variables. Just a second. Here, here we can select whichever which user variable you need. You can select it here. But I want to know which user variable I have selected for that level 0 descendants. That's why I'm going to user variables. Just a second. Okay, let us see here which user variable have been created. Wait just a minute. I will go to forms again. Here it is taking too much time. Yeah, the variables have been opened, and for entity var1 I have taken the level 0 descendants. Okay. Okay, now we will go to the forms and we will select the form which I have taken for these user variables. The second form, user variables, and click on edit. Click on edit. We will go to the layout and I select this entity var1 user variable. I will remove this old user variable and select the new user variable that I have created now, and I have removed it, and the entity where one I have selected. Just a minute. User variables, entity where one. Yeah, entity where one has been selected. Okay, now we'll click on save and we will preview the form. Yeah, just a minute. I have to enable this user dynamic user variables. For that, I am selecting this entity where one and click on save. And we have to enable this dynamic user variables also. Again, I am saving. After that, again we will preview the form. So now from this POV, you can see whether what are the members that we can select. By expanding this entity one, you can see that these only these child members can be selected. This parent member cannot be selected. Like this, we can see only the child members in the data form. We can use the child members in the data form. Yeah, the third question is the third point is a reference link. If you want to see some related topics on these user variables and data forms, then you can use this link and see those topics. And after that, when the data form is saved, the business rule should run only in the context of entity selection made. Okay. For this, we will just go to the business rule in our application, and I will show you how the entities only will be selected. For that, I am going to the data form. Here in the data form, I am selecting the user to variable form. Yeah, okay. I'm selecting the user to variable form, and here under this business rules, let's see. Yeah, the entity rule business rule have been selected. Okay, I'm clicking on save, and now I'll go to the form again. And if we run this business rule, just a minute. If you run on those business rule, this business rule, then yeah, here you can see that whatever the entities we have, whatever the user variables we have taken, those user variables were already selecting in this entity rule, so that the according to the question, the business rule will run only on the context of entity selection made. And in the next slide, we are going to see how to use these user variables in RTP. For this, I will show you through navigation in application. For the first point is, can we use the user variable in RTP? Yes, we can use the user variable in RTP. I will show you I will show you in application. And the second question is, if yes, can you limit the user variables in the RTP and able to restrict user one from accessing the entities other than he wants? Yes, we can limit the user variable in the RTP. I will show you in the application while creating the RTPs. And the third question is, use this RTP in the business rule and show me how it works. Let's see all these points in the application. For that, we will go to this create and manage and select the rules card. Here, after going to this rules, under actions, we will click on the variable designer, and here we will select the cube from EPM cloud under the EPM cloud. If you select the global means, it will be applied to all the cubes in our application. If you select the FCCS2 means, it will be applied to a particular cube that which your application is using. And here, after clicking on global, I am clicking in the new option. So now I can create the RTP for the user variable. I am just creating the RTP ENT1. ENT1. After that, I will select the type as member type. and the dimension type I will select the entity, and after that we will use this RTP checkbox to get these limit options. Here we can limit the user variables which we have created, like I have created the entity var2. If we mentioned this entity var2 in the limits means, then we can only select the members which are available under this entity var2 only. No other members can be selected in this RTPs. And we will take the default value as the end limits value only. Next, we will enter some text like please enter the entity. Like that, we will give some text. So now we will click on save. The variable saved successfully. Here you can see that our RTP entity 1 has been created. After that, we will go to the system view. And here only I showed that we can use this limit options in the RTPs, and using the user variables in the RTPs. I have showed those 2 points. And now we will create the business rule. For that, we will go to this system view and we will select the FCCS and select on console. And under rules, we will create a new rule. And like new object, we will take the application type as EPM Cloud and application name is FCCS2. Cube is console. Object type is rule. After that, we'll give the name like I'm giving a custom rule 5. I will click on OK. Yeah, the custom rule 5 has been created and open for editing now. So after creating this custom rule, we will just provide the script for adding the RTPs in this custom rule. For that, we will just write the script like give the RTP name, RTP var var2, and then next we will end fix. Now let's check whether there are any errors in this. We will validate this RTP. It will just take 2 minutes of time. After adding this RTP here, the rule will be added under this. Okay, some name has been found changed. Okay, let's see what has been given in this RTP. Yeah, entity 1 in the custom rule. Here RTP entity. Oh, sorry, entity. Yeah, let's check whether the name is correct or not. Again, ENT1. Okay. ENT1. Okay, now again we will validate this. After validating this, yeah, the validation has been successful with no errors. After validating this, so just save this. Yeah, the RTP for entity 1 has been created here. You can see the RTP1 entity 1, RTP entity 1. After that, we will go to these actions and we will just deploy the RTP rule. And after deploying this RTP rule, we can check this rule from the business rules. Yeah, the deployment was successful. After that, we will close this. We'll close this and go to the application and we will select the business rules option. Here you can see the custom rule 5 and we will click on it, launch it. Here you can see the whatever the entity variable we used in the RTP, you can see that RTP here in the business rule. Now let's go to the presentation. Use this RTP in the business rule and it shows me how it and show me how it works. Yeah, I have just showed that how the RTP has been worked in the business rule. From here, you can select the entity also. If you want to change any member, you can select. But by default, using this RTPs means whatever the user variable that I have selected under this entity where to, that will be automatically selected in the business rule. Next, going to the next slide. Usage of user variables in business rules. Here the question is, can you show me how to use the user variables in the business rule? Just now I have showed that how to use the user variables in business rule. Here I have created the business rule like custom rule 5, and here I am using the user variable by RTP. And here also, if under this entity, if you want to use the user variables means you can select this user variable, and you can pick what are the user variables that are available in the application. You can select that those user variables from here. Like that, we can use those user variables in the business rules. Now coming to the PPT, can you explain the can you explain what advantages does the usage of user variables has over the substitution variables in business rules? We have the advantage like the user can select the members. That is the major advantage in this business rule. In substitution variable, the user cannot select any of the members. So the advantage is the user can select the variable members, which are created under the user variables. And the third point is, can you explain which of the following approach is recommended for using entity in business rule? Please explain why if you can. Hard coding entity means selecting the member by going to the entity dimension and selecting the member under the entity. And using the user variable of entity means just providing the user variable. Like I'll show you the script here. For user variable, we will just give the end ampersand symbol and just give our entity entity var true. True. This is our user variable name. Like this, we can add these user variables in the business rules. And for RTP, we have just used that RTP rule in the business rule. Like, we will give the RTP and we will select the RTP name. Like this, we can use the RTP, and in the hard coding, we will directly select the member name. Will directly provide the member name like EM0101, like that we can directly select. Uh, in these all options, I would recommend using this RTP because in this we have the advantage of runtime prompt where the user can select the variables by using these runtime prompts. Here the user can select here the user can select the user variables which I have created. For that, I would recommend using this RTP method only. Using the RTP method only. After that, next we will see how to use these user variables in the smart view. For that, we will go to the smart view. Here, under the smart view, I have taken the user variable to form, and I will open it. Okay, just a second. If we got this pop-up means we must go to the smart view and under options we have to uncheck this suppress missing blocks. After that, again we will go and open this user var2. So now you can use that form. Here we will just provide our uh, name. Like I have created the entity var2 ampersand before that. Just a second. I have given in the application. Just a second. Yeah, here I will go to the user variables. Under the user variables, I will see what entity var2. Okay, I will use this entity var2 in the smart view. Entity var. After giving the name, we will just refresh it. Yeah, the user variable have been added across this data form. Like this, we use these user variables in the smart view. Now let's see what are the topics that we have discussed in this PPT. We have discussed that how to use these user variables in the data forms, and we have created we have created runtime prompt and use it in the business rule, and we have seen the business rules for using these user variables, and in smart view also we have used the user variables and see the changes. That's all, Srikanth. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Santhosh. Have a nice
Yeah,
day.
thank you, Srikanth.